I mean, I probably have like 3 conversations a week with CMOs where we talk about what's happening with privacy disruption. And at first it started with like cookie deprecation, and I say that in air quotes. And I'm really trying to up level that conversation because it's not about cookies.
No.
That's not what it's about. You know what I mean? It's about the fact that technology has a trust problem, and brands need to own, specifically marketing, needs to own the fact that trust sits inside of marketing. And so, like, when you think about the areas of focus, and I was listening to a previous podcast, and, we share similar connections within the industry. And so I know you had Tom Chavez on, and he kind of said trust is an oxygen for businesses. One of the sentiments that he and I share is that privacy is a competitive advantage for businesses. And so how, I think, to answer your question specifically, how has privacy been a disruptor, but also I think something that has been so fundamentally embedded in what my day-to-day is it's an education standpoint on how privacy can drive media efficacy, or privacy can drive, growth and business expansion. And so the issue with that, though, is that how do you as an agency organize that education in a way that's not actually providing legal advice, but that's helping your clients, execute smarter marketing business campaigns, right? And part of the issue is that the tech regulation is so inconsistent and outdated and fragmented. But if you dial into sort of like the 3 main categories of bills that affect our industry, which is kind of more or less around like content moderation, which ties to like Section 230, which is an independent group who sits within my org, but isn't necessarily what I tie into. It's more around brand safety, which is kind of some of the stuff that we've talked about, like around the metaverse. And then you've got, your consumer privacy, and your antitrust. And so when you dial it back and think about it in terms of those 3 categories, antitrust links to interoperability, consumer privacy links to data security and data protection laws, and then you have, your content moderation, and then somewhere in there you have like cross-border data transfers, which I suppose can like kind of link to like data interoperability. And if you kind of bite it off that way and then think about what are the strategies and the solutions that fit within that to build out infrastructures, whether it's privacy by design, like, do we need to start thinking about how you bring in privacy tech like code so that you can understand the types of data that you're processing, the categories, the uses, the qualifiers, and then that, privacy engineers are automatically alerted of that based off of the taxonomy and hierarchies. Is it, a technology like a consent where it's like a digital wallet so that when first party data is collected, you are making sure that consumers have appropriate notice and choice and, rights of removal, deletion, correction. How are those things then now embedded into the way that you're building experiences across paid and owned and interacting with the individuals that you work with? And so if you kind of take more of that pragmatic approach, it becomes a little bit more digestible.